not an official meeting. I'll defer to you if you want to do the pledge. All right, let's just get right into this. So for those of you who are here, you know the exits and the restrooms. Brian, welcome. Here comes maybe, I don't know who that might be, white truck. Dave Smith, or is that an issue? Do you know if Jackie's coming tonight or?
Jackie's
Okay. It's Dave. All right, so now we have a forum. We'll just say, call the meeting to order at 8:04. Hello, David. 7:04, sorry. Okay, so there are 9 that could be here, so 5 of you are here, so that's a quorum now. Anybody on Zoom?
Okay, leave it.
No.
Oh, okay.
All right, so we have minutes from January 11th. Are there any corrections or additions? Okay, then we'll have the minutes. I'm sorry, what said I thought they were there. Okay, so they will stand as written then. Thank you. And down into committee organization, you know all about posting information. You all keep your own notebooks. And I would go to the next item in your packet, which is a letter from the supervisor addressing the question last time about the cost estimate for career firefighters. Based on information that Anthony submitted and based on information in the report from the fire department building committee to the village board of trustees in October of 2020, there were staffing costs that indicated that it would cost $89,000 per career firefighter. Anthony had mentioned 94. This report also said that based on a union contract, the budget to maintain that same firefighter projected to be $146,000 4 years later. So we're 2 years into that. You wouldn't necessarily look to career people in anything we suggest for another 2 years, which brings us back to my initial 150. So the supervisor and the assessor settled on a $100,000 figure to start. And if you look at the letter, if you add $100,000 to the Mendon Fire District, the rate would go to 134. So for an assessment value of $200,000, the total tax would be $268 for the year, meaning it would be a $38 increase per $200,000 house. If you do the same math with the village and the fire protection district by adding $100,000 to that village budget, the rate increase there would be $78 a year. If you looked at a townwide district on that $200,000 assessment, came up with $180 for the year. So this should answer your question about what the cost would be to hire one firefighter. And I will just say to you, this is not a concern of this committee. It's nowhere in our charge. However, I respect the question. I believe it's been answered. We are not in the detail of what a new fire structure government would want to do, but certainly this is information that may be valuable to them. So as this committee is concerned with their charge, that should answer the question and lay this down on the table, and it could be forwarded. I mean, the letter will be in the town file, so it would be information that would be available, you know, going down the road. Any questions on that? Thank you. Then let's get into the committee charge, item 7 on the agenda. If you look at task 1, you did receive a copy, an email copy of chapter 2 narrative. Chapter 2 is called authority and jurisdiction. So you have that. It lists figures, 2 figures that will be part of that arrangement. Chapter 3 you have had for some time. Going down into task 2, you have had chapter 4, which is demographics, exposures, and experience for some time. We were waiting for the natural and target features tables to accompany that. They went out together with the full chapter in one document on your email. So you get that as well. And yesterday, yesterday I finished chapter 5 draft, which is going down into task 3. Chapter 5 is resource considerations, and that takes some of the information that we talked about at the last meeting, which wraps up the data and information gathered in the front part of the report, puts it in a story context to say, here's what we have, and here's what that means in terms of staffing, equipment, finances, administration, and puts it in a way that sets us for working on sustainment models. So everything that has been drafted and put in place in a reporting format is now available to you. Some of the charts and graphics that had been sent out initially have been updated with complete data for 2022. Some of them have been updated in other ways of editing and typos. And you don't have all of them in that version yet. And Danny has graciously offered to work with me to put all of what we have so far on an electronic platform as a draft report so that you can view it. My sense is that all of these figures and appendices will be bundled electronically into maybe one identity, like an email would be, or a website would be, so that they can just be pulled up and you would have the final version of everything. You would have, you know, the narratives at your electronic hands. Are there any questions on that process or the format? Okay, well, great. So that moves us on to the modeling worksheet, which is in red at the bottom of task 3 on the agenda. You have that. It's paper clipped, so you can take the pages and move them. And Danny's going to project this. Do we have anybody yet in Zoom? Okay. All right. There's one figure that I'm going to just show here. You have it. It's called municipal resources. You should have it in your notebook. You've seen it before. And what it does is it lists all the administrative functions of general purpose local governments, towns, villages. So it shows, for example, that there are local laws, there are policies, they do budgets, they assess property, they levy taxes, they can have special districts, they have staffing and employees, there's a building inspector, a fire marshal, a code enforcement officer. They do planning review for plat layout, subdivisions and property divisions. They have zoning authority. They have legal counsel. The village has a fire department and an ambulance department. Both have highway departments. They can apply for grants and receive revenues. They both have justice courts. And then at the bottom, the second little table at the bottom shows you contractual relationships that they have for 911 subscription, fire protection, the village fire contract, the ambulance contract with the village, and the water authority contracts. So it's I'm going to talk about this in reference to the worksheet. So I just wanted you to know that when I say the municipal services remain intact, no matter what you do, there will still be a village, there will still be a town. All these services will remain available to the residents of the town in the village, regardless of how the fire protection jurisdiction overlays. The contract situation at the bottom here may change with the structure because the structure may take on these responsibilities, like subscribing to 911, contracting for public safety communications with the county. The water authority won't change, but some other things may. Just so you, when you say, oh, municipal services, that's what these are. Think fire marshal, building inspector. All right, take a look here at the first page of these modeling notes and worksheets. And as we go through this, and when you leave tonight, it's important that you consider, once you know what we have and who does what, and what some of the options are as the structures change, please consider what else do we need? What option or options would best achieve these needs? And then what do you recommend? And Brian, since nobody's here for this, why don't you take this copy of this so you can follow along with us? All right, so those 3 questions on the front page are things that please keep in mind as we go through tonight and move forward after tonight. So just a reiteration, chapters 2 through 5 document the fire protection governance currently, the resources we have in hand to deliver the services, the risks, vulnerabilities, and exposures within the whole town, and then challenges to the fire department operations for both Honeoye Falls and Mendon. We currently have 4 jurisdictional options. You saw those on the chart in chapter 5. That's that matrix that shows municipal, fire district, fire protection district, and joint fire district. Our current model includes 3 of these options. Each one has independent autonomous boards of elected officials. So 3 authorities times 5 people in each one, that's 15 people. And 2 fire departments, Mendon serving Mendon Fire District and Honeoye Falls serving the village, and 2 fire protection districts, Mendon, number 1, and North Bloomfield. And although the town of West Bloomfield is not within the purview of our charge, the models you consider may include their fire protection district if they opt to participate. So kind of keep that in mind. All right, if you go to the next page, which is a table, this is what we currently have. You can see these 15 elected officials in their respective jurisdiction. The town board is involved because they're the governance board for the fire protection district. That's why you see town board listed where it says fire protection district. The municipal service provisions, all these things that the municipals provide, will stay across the town and the village. And another municipal service provided to the fire district is the town acts as the tax collector for the district. That's why you see collect tax in their box. The property tax rate right now is a 2-to-1 ratio. And if you look where the numbers are, the 2 is the fire district, and then half basically of what they pay, the fire protection district pays and the village pays. We had previously spoken about that tax ratio. That's why I put it in the format. There are property tax exemptions, which will stay no matter what, again, with the municipalities. The budgets are currently done by the town because the fire district budget is part of the town's budget. They don't just collect the tax and hand it over. They own that tax. It's part of what they have to give when they say our budget is, just going to pick a figure, $1 million. The fire protection district draw is part of that million. It's not separated out like the Mendon Fire District is, where they just collect a tax and it doesn't contribute to the value of their total budget. So hopefully you can make that distinction. The real property assets for fire protection are owned by the village and the fire district and the Mendon Fire Department, but that's not on here because it's not a jurisdiction. The reserve funds are village and fire district. The debt associated with fire protection is only carried by the village. Even though it can be carried by the fire district, they don't have any debt, and the town cannot have debt for fire protection because they don't provide it. Just like they can't have a reserve fund for fire protection because they don't provide it. The calendar year is the fiscal year and the official year for the town, fire protection district, and the fire district, but not for the village. You'll see the fiscal year for the village is June 1st to May 31st, and the official year is April to April, depending on first Monday in April. The equipment and apparatus owned by the village currently and the fire district. The village contracts for fire protection district are currently with just the town for their fire protection district. And if you look, there's 2 asterisks, look down below. Those contracts are based on the previous village fiscal year. And when the calculation is done for that year that was closed, any overages of expenses are added to the fire contract. Any under expenditures are credited to the fire contract. And more recently, any overages, there's a gentleman's agreement between the town and the village that if the town paid more than was actually expended, instead of them getting a credit, it would go into the reserve fund for the village. It's already been collected from the taxpayers. Keep it with the taxpayers, use it to their advantage, put it in the reserve fund. So correct me, Brian, if I'm not accurate, but we're not talking huge amounts of money. We may be talking a couple thousand at best. It could be a couple hundred. Okay. If we look at the volunteer fire department operations, the village has a department for it's a fire department of the village. The ambulance is a department of the village. The highway is a department of the village. So it's another department of the village. The Mendon Fire Department is serving the Mendon Fire District. They are not for profit. They call Mendon Fire Department. They are both volunteer memberships. They both use mutual aid and mutual assistance, which we know is an automatic dispatch procedure. They are joint training in certain areas. They have operational protocols separately and together when they operate. They have a usual operational procedure together. They are dispatched and have communications both from the 911 center and public safety communications with the county. There is the local retirement package in the Mendon Fire District, not in the village. There is one paid, and I'll say civilian employee, because this is not a career position as a firefighter, both in the village and in the fire district. The ambulance service has a town-wide certificate of need, and the Ambulance does contract with the town. The contract allows the town to charge the whole town outside the village for ambulance service, which required a home rule message to the state legislature for approval because towns were not allowed to act in authority with fire districts because fire districts could provide their own ambulance service. At the time the ambulance service came into being, it's not a desire on the part of the district to have their own ambulance, but they wanted ambulance service. So the town looked to the state, sought the special legislation, received approval to tax the whole town outside the village for the ambulance service. So the home rule message, the special legislation is allowing taxation, not just service. And we know that both fire departments run on EMS calls as part of their fire service. So this is a graphic representation of what we have. If you look at the next page, I took the same information and plotted it for a joint fire district, which is one of the 4 options for fire jurisdictions that you saw on page 1. So elected officials, there would, for a joint fire district to be created, the fire protection district and the village would join the territory and become a joint fire district. The fire district itself, the Mendon Fire District, is in no way impacted by this structure. They remain just as they are now. So everything on the right-hand column is the same. So if you look down the center column, we go from 10 elected officials, 5 from the village, 5 from the town. A joint district can have between 3 and 7. Scottsville Wheatland, when they merged, their commission is 5. So like a fire district, I would say the majority that have gone that way are using 5, but the law allows 3 to 7. The municipal services provisions, this chart, again, the fire marshal, that kind of thing, they don't change because the town is still the town government, the village is still the village government. The town will still collect the taxes for the fire district, remembering that the tax for the fire district does not impact the town budget. The property tax rate would become one rate inside that joint fire district. It's already one rate in the fire district. That's why it says same over there, but they're not necessarily the same rates. The joint fire district would probably have a different rate than the Mendon Fire District. So please just look and consider joint fire district. Property tax exemptions would be unchanged. They go with the municipality. The budgets would still be done, but they would now be done by the joint fire district. The real property assets of the village going into the joint district could be negotiated, whether they're absorbed, whether they're sold in phases, whatever could be negotiated, because it wouldn't just be assumed that they would go to the new district. The reserve funds, same taxpayers paid into this reserve fund that are now part of the joint fire district, but again, a topic for negotiation. The debt for fire protection in the village, again, same area, same taxpayers have started, have assumed this debt all along. There's a potential to increase the maximum indebtedness because the assessed value is now one aggregate amount. It's not divided between the village and the fire protection district. That aggregate value now is for everybody inside the geography. It brings the official year and the calendar year together for everybody concerned. The equipment and apparatus is owned by the village. Again, the same taxpayers have contributed to the purchase of it as would be in this joint fire district, but again, another topic for negotiation. Fire contracts for the protection or for protection districts. If desired by an outside party, a joint fire district can contract out for services. It can also contract in for services. Fire department operations, the commission would decide volunteer and or career, stay the same, add career, have a combined fire operation, whatever they would want to do is up to them. Mutual aid and mutual assistance, they would decide as it's desirable to give and receive. Joint training is desirable, operational protocols that are desirable, dispatching communications remain the same within the county. Benefits now are negotiable for volunteer members of the fire department, fire company within this new joint district. Paid civilian employee, again, is desirable by the joint fire district. The ambulance service, no change, still townwide certificate of need. Still the town can tax, still the village can tax. EMS from the fire service, well, it's currently provided by Honeoye Falls. It could continue if desired. Again, no changes to the Mendon Fire District. And I'm going to ask you to look at page 4 at the top. Those considerations that you first see at the top of page 4 are going with this joint fire district. So if you put it by the table, you will find out that the change is administrative. It achieves a single governance authority from 2 within the town of Mendon, and 3 if West Bloomfield decides to partner in this. Because they are a contiguous fire protection district, they could decide to join if the town and the village created a joint fire district. That would be totally up to them. There would be no obligation on their part. If they chose to continue a contract service with the Honeoye Falls Fire Department, they could contract with the joint fire district to get that service. So when you look back at the chart and you see fire contracts for protection district, and then you look over and it says, if desired by an outside party, I put that there with West Bloomfield in mind because they are not the only contiguous fire protection district. However, they are the only one currently receiving Honeoye Falls service. The other one is a Lima Fire Protection District, and they did not renew the fire contract with Honeoye Falls way back. So now fire protection is a single focus and not one of several obligations the town board and the village board of trustees must consider. Town board has lots of items on their agendas, lots within their purview of employees and services, as does the village, but it takes the village fire department outside of the village government, and it focuses fire protection on one group of authority, like the Mendon Fire District Commissioners are concerned about fire protection, not a highway department, not fire marshal. There's no change in the territory served by the Honeoye Falls Fire Department because the joint district is the village and the fire protection district of the town, at least, and maybe West Bloomfield, which we call North Bloomfield, it's still the same territory. The official year and the fiscal years align now with the calendar year. It allows new contract arrangements if contract service is extended or desired. It establishes 1 rate per 1,000 for taxpayers in the district. The same territory is currently served by Honeoye Falls. There's no implied changes for Mendon Fire District. And I added another one, which I will add, on on the document, but in my handwriting, I just wrote this to bring to your attention. It eliminates the fire protection costs from the town budget, because right now the fire protection district costs are part of the town's total budget. They're not separate like the fire district taxes are separate. So it would reduce their appropriations by whatever they don't have to spend for the fire contract. It doesn't mean the taxpayers don't pay anything. It just means it takes it out of the town budget, so they don't have to consider it as they look at, 2% expend, not going above 2% of their expenditures in their next budget, that kind of thing. All right. Now, are there any questions about this information for the joint fire district? David?
The commissioners,
Yes.
the joint fire district, we have 5 total, not Mendon's 5 plus 5. Am I reading that right or
The
wrong?
fire district stays the same. They're their own 5. They have
still
nothing to do.
5, and the joint fire district,
Can have anywhere from 3 to 7 commissioners, depending on how the town and the village set it up.
but I guess I'm not following you. Is the joint, isn't the joint fire district and then?
No. No, it's the Mendon Fire Protection District.
So it'd be the Mendon Fire Protection District is the joint.
Yes, it joins with the bill. The town fire protection district is Mendon Fire Protection District number 1. That territory in the village corporate limit, Village of Honeoye Falls, would become one single territory for fire protection. And their board of commissioners can be anywhere from 3 to 7 people, depending on how it's set up at the time it's created.
I guess that's the reason that, so between the two, the joint fire district.
3 to 7.
8 to
No, 3 to 7. That's it. For them. They're one box as you read down the
I
table.
see the box, but what, it's, so they become, Honeoye Falls Fire Department is the joint fire district.
Their service territory, yes, is the joint district. Honeoye Falls Fire Department serves the village and the Mendon
No, I
Fire.
understand what I'm saying, but that is now their. To me, I was looking at it as joint, meaning the two together. Not the fire protection district in Honeoye Falls, but Mendon.
I think that's next.
Yeah, no, that would be a fire district. This is a,
One fire.
yes.
Town. Keep forgetting, right? It's not the word used.
So
That's the other half.
I
I,
guess maybe the word joint, but there's a joint
well, the title joint fire district
is
is a legal district, just like a fire district is the legal district. Joint, in the sense of the legal term, binds 2 jurisdictions, village and a town, where the town is a fire protection district.
okay. So that answers the question.
All right. Let me show you a graphic. If you have your notebook, you should have a map of the fire protection across the town. I think that was one of the first, yes. I don't have.
You're looking for me, I don't need it.
Okay.
I understand, I've been under the assumption that joint has these entities townwide
No,
doing their thing, but so the joint are these because it, and then Mendon stays the same.
Yeah.
Okay, I get it.
and if you look at your map of, if you look at your fire district map, basically the town division north to south, the east side is Mendon Fire District, the west side is the protection district, and then you see the village of Honeoye Falls. So if you take that protection district and the village, and you put an outline, exterior border of that whole thing, that would be the legal joint fire district. territory.
So if that was to come together, we had joint fire district and independent fire district,
Yes.
we would then reference it as, how would you reference it?
It would be the Mendon Fire District. And depending on how they put the name together, the Honeoye Falls Mendon Joint Fire District, or Mendon Honeoye Falls Joint Fire District.
Still two separate entities, just so. Okay.
Two coming into. And, you know, joint,
Two coming in, one still are moving three. So we're going from 3 to 2.
yes,
Yeah.
in a joint scenario, you would go from three authorities down to two.
2.
Yes. And this one would be at no change to the Mendon Fire District. So at the bottom of page 4, underneath this joint fire district considerations, there are other options that the town board can take on its own. So joint fire district is a legal action, requires both the village and the town. The town can act on its own in a number of ways, and that's what this bottom bullet section of page 4 is indicating. These are not the only ones, but I just want you to see that the town can take some actions on its own to change the structure of authority for fire protection within the town. So options related to Mendon Fire Protection District number 1 is options for the town board. They can contract with another fire department, just like that, by resolution. They decide they're going to go somewhere else for a contract. They may dissolve the current fire protection district territory and divide it for alignment with adjacent fire departments to contract into whatever the fire protection district territory is. So they're adjacent to Rush, they're adjacent to Henrietta, and they're adjacent to Pittsburgh, and they're adjacent to Mendon. So there are 4 adjacent fire department areas that they could look to protect their fire protection district, as it now sits. It has always been from its beginning with the Honeoye Falls Fire Department through the Village Board of Trustees. Bullet 3, they could create a fire district in lieu of the fire protection district. Now, again, I'm just talking about the territory of the fire protection district. They can change it from a fire protection district status and create it to be a fire district. The gain is less evident as the territory remains the same, eliminating the possibility of an increase in the assessed value, which ultimately would reduce the rate per thousand to taxpayers. So the financial incentive is not there for the taxpayers. The town would need to continue contracting for fire service delivery or seek residents to establish a not-for-profit company to supply fire protection within the district. So if they establish their own fire district, there's no change in the assessed value of the territory. So the rate per thousand is really status quo. If they can, then contract with Honeoye Falls to come in, but they could decide to contract with somebody else, or they could create, have a fire department created for use. All of that costs money. So from a fiscal standpoint, that's probably not even on their radar, but it is an option when you look at a fire protection district and changes that can be made to it. The other option I put here is to consolidate the fire protection district with the Mendon Fire District. And please note that this would leave the village and its municipal fire department without the current fire contract revenue from Mendon Fire Protection District number 1. However, the Mendon Fire District can contract for service outside the territory currently served by Mendon. So if the town consolidated with the Mendon Fire District and the Mendon Fire District didn't want to take on the fire protection territory, the Mendon Fire District could contract with Honeoye Falls, who currently serves the territory. So the idea here is that there are many legal ways to frame fire protection, deciding on what the town would like to do. Some have, benefits that you can see just by looking at it. Others you can see, there's not much gain there, if any. Others are like the shell game. So it depends on, what the frame of reference is for the town board. I don't want you to think that just because you make a recommendation, they're going to take it. They can do any number of things if they want to make a change. So just thought. If you go to page 5, here's another option that they have. They could look to the Mendon Fire District. They could look to the village. And they could make the case that the best thing to do is to create a townwide fire district, which is, we call a special purpose government, not general purpose like this municipal services, but special purpose for fire service, just like this joint fire district. Okay, let's go down the list for a townwide fire district. You now go to one elected authority. That's 5 people.
Not 5 to 7. Because look at Pittsburgh Fire District. 7 commissioners.
It says in the current law 5, some are holdovers, and I don't know, maybe with special,
I think that was a very similar thing of combination of 2 governments. Right, this is the village and town, I believe. That's how they came up
maybe
with
at the
7.
time, because they've been around. I don't know, I'd have to, look it up, but my understanding right now, and from the reports that we've had from Rockefeller Institute Fire District officers, they're using the figure of 5. Hi, Anthony. Oh, as long as he's okay. So municipal service provisions remain unchanged. And because it's a district, the town would collect the taxes. The property tax rate per thousand changes because the aggregate assessed value is now the whole town. So the assessed value is going to be 1 for the whole town. The property tax exemptions remain unchanged. They stay with the village and the town. Budgeting is done by commissioners. Real property assets. We have the same taxpayers involved in the whole thing now, but there's negotiations that would occur because they're assets owned by the village and the fire district. There would be discussions of if they're combined, how they're combined. The reserve funds, same boat, negotiation, same taxpayers. The debt for fire protection now, we have the same taxpayers. The maximum indebtedness would increase. You know that because when we looked at that for the chart of maximum indebtedness, you saw how much more the town could borrow than the district could borrow, or the village could borrow. Put it all together, the ceiling goes up. Not that, that's on anybody's mind, but there's a fiscal perspective here. The fiscal year, the official year are all on the same with the calendar year. Equipment and apparatus owned by the village and the district, same taxpayers, up for negotiation. Fire contracts, the district can contract for fire service, and the district can contract to extend their fire service into other areas. Fire department operations, that would be a decision of the commission, is to volunteer and or career service. Mutual aid, mutual assistance, that would be decided on desirable giving and receiving service. Joint training, operations, would align and work with others as desired. Dispatch and communications remains the same with the county. Would be a little tweaking because Mendon Fire is in one battalion, Honey Falls is in another. I broached that subject with the fire coordinator, and the answer was no big deal. Changes can be made, not a problem. The benefits would be as desired, negotiated, because Mendon now has that quote retirement style benefit. Paid civilian employees, non-career firefighters like Dale Sweet and Pete Henry are now, again, can continue, desired by the commission. Ambulance service is still the townwide certificate of need. And EMS service would still be provided as the commission deems it appropriate for the fire departments to be running EMS service. Now, if you look at the considerations, they start on the page under the chart and they go on to page 6. So before I entertain questions, let's look at some of these things. Again, this change would be administrative. It achieves a single governance authority from the 3 current governing authorities. Fire protection, like the joint fire district, it's the single focus of the elected officials. There's no change in the territory served by the current structure because we're talking about village territory, fire protection territory, Mendon Fire District territory becoming one fire district. It allows new contract arrangements if contract service is extended out to others or desired to come in for some reason. It aggregates the full assessed value of all property within the town. However, the district could establish one rate per thousand for all taxpayers, or the district can differently assess taxation for fire services within the district based on operational costs, and properties may be assessed differently within the district to reflect differences in providing services to different areas of the district. So, for example, this option of different tax rates could address the current indebtedness for the village and keep that expense that's now with the fire protection and village taxpayers with the properties currently within the village and the Mendon Fire District. So if the Mendon Fire District has a rate of $1, and because of the debt in the village, which is being paid by the village and fire protection district, that territory is $1.15 until that debt is paid off, and then you go to one rate. That's what it, that's why I wanted to clarify for you that there can be different tax rates within one fire district, but it has to be based on operational costs associated with that territory. The fire department structure could be negotiated. For example, Honey Falls and Mendon could each be a company serving the new district. It doesn't mean the fire departments are going away or changing. They just become each their company within that new district. Consolidating the departments within a single district removes the current mutual aid liability that exists when the departments respond together on calls within the town. You know, you saw that they're going together on calls in the town on a regular basis. They both pay liability insurance for mutual aid. That piece of insurance would go away. The district would still have mutual aid liability insurance, but the vulnerabilities presented within the town by those companies would not have to be paid for. A fire district can provide ambulance service and practice third-party billing for revenue. So if there's a town-wide district and through the course of negotiations, there's a desire to have the ambulance become part of the district, or ambulance service become part of the district, the third-party revenue now is allowed in fire districts. So that revenue, which is probably somewhere upwards now of 300,000, I'm gonna just take a guess, Brian. The revenue for third-party billing, somewhere upwards of 300.
Yeah, it's 450.
You know, would be, part of that would be Mendon Fire District, because there would have to be some changes probably in the CON or the health department for the territory. I don't know, but I'm just guessing, you know, I don't want to say that territory they have now in West Bloomfield and Lima would be part of what they would be if they were a fire district ambulance. So we'll say 300,000. Okay. So let me just finish out here and then we'll go for questions. So on the top of the first page, you learn that what's going on between the fire departments and the joint stuff that's happening out here is solely on the part of the fire departments. Hasn't come from any structural changes, hasn't come from any resolutions, local laws. They put it together. So they've initiated changes to improve the delivery of fire protection services to the entire town of Mendon and the village. They have accomplished these initiatives without a governance change, yet they remain stymied to gain membership and sustain a safe, effective response to emergency calls. Their gains are operational and their scope is limited to firematic operations. So when I say first page, I think I'm talking about chapter 5 narrative. Sorry. The town gives this committee an opportunity to recommend a fire protection model or models to improve resources and offer sustainable service. While structural changes to our current model require time for thoughtful deliberation and the associated legal process, there is an opportunity to gain relief from pressing staffing and financial challenges and to position our community for the next evolution in fire protection services. We know what the current authorities are offering. We know that the challenge of staffing and finances are issues for the fire departments, more so for staffing, heavy financial on the village, not so much on the fire district. But hopefully this has given you some ideas of some opportunities to look at, some things to consider, some things to explore. And I'll just say whatever questions you might have. Let's take a look at. Any questions on the fire district? We didn't really look at that one by itself yet. Townwide fire district, that would be a consolidation. It's the last graphic. It's page 5. Corey?
I'll just go.
Yeah.
From the seat of the fire chief of Huntington Falls, my hope is that this committee recommends the townwide consolidation. Of my personal opinion, I believe that is best. I'm curious as to what the Mendon Fire District.
Well,
what is your?
Let me just say this. I don't want to put anybody on the spot here. And I want to just reiterate, this is your recommendation to the town board.
Correct.
What any of you think individually, or for you to answer that if you want to, you're welcome to, but it's not something that is part of what we're doing. We're just recommending to the town board, and then it would be up to them to look at if they, say, yes, this is the best way to go. Now we need to get the village, the district, and us as town board
I
to sit
I
at the table.
completely understand what you're saying, Mark, and nobody's wrong here. We're down to the nuts and bolts of this committee.
Yes,
We've got a village representative and a fire district representative. And before we make a recommendation to the town, what do they want out of this? Because we're just a couple meetings away from being done.
it's what you want them to consider, not what they want.
No, I'm asking their opinion. as
Oh, the
representative-
district.
Yeah, as a representative of the district. And what does the district hope to get out of this when this committee is done?
So, yeah, I mean, I think
It's a tough question.
It's a tough question because honestly, the town board has nothing to do with what we do, right?
Understood.
Like, and really the same for you, right? Besides the protection district, right? They're
Absolutely.
gonna, the town's, I'm pretty sure gonna do whatever we as two departments, district and village decide, right? They're gonna be left empty handed if they don't.
Well, then it's gonna be status quo and
Right, I mean, it's gonna work its way out, but I think, we're pretty happy working with Honey Falls and trying to figure that out. And it does take the financial burden off of you guys too, if we figure out how to make it district wise, right? I think that's been definitely a struggle that I've heard on Honey Falls side of things. But I think we're pretty happy in the direction that we're moving, working together.
Good.
And I think it's a good time to be there in the sense of our opportunities are wide open, right? And what we can do, we're not pressed for time and we're not pressed against the wall. Hey, you have to make this decision tomorrow, right? Like we're starting early enough that it gives us time to kind of figure it out. I mean, we're definitely open to ideas as far as I can tell with everybody else and trying to figure everything out.
I mean, my biggest concern, which you mentioned kind of a few minutes ago, is if we as a committee make a recommendation to the town that we're gonna go this way. And the town and or the village decide, no, we're gonna go that way. Then we've wasted our time here. That's the last thing that I want. If there's been, and I'll just speak on the Honey Falls Act for myself and part of myself, an unbelievable amount of time in all of this. And to see the whole committee go a different route would be terrible in my mind. And it's a tough question, I'm not gonna ask you, it's a tough question on the village end. When this comes to a village board meeting, and we said, we're gonna go this route. And if they say no, or they say, then we've wasted our time.
okay,
So
let me
it's a
just-
tough question to ask, but it needs an answer, as we can see February, we're almost there. I mean,
I agree.
you go.
You can recommend whatever you
Absolutely
want,
true.
but please don't leave the end of February thinking, well, we made this recommendation and that's what's gonna happen.
No, I'm well aware that's probably not.
I think
I'm gonna go glass half empty. And until village and towns, protection districts, everybody comes to the table and says, this is what we're doing. I'm not gonna breathe a sigh of relief, because as these meetings go on and these months go by, fire calls continue to come in, and you can't properly staff. You need an answer, you need to get moved.
If I may, all the joint and the fire district and all that, while that's all administrative, doesn't answer the question of why we came here.
Yeah, it does.
How-
We have a charge by the board. The town board gave us 3 charges.
Okay,
And that's all we're doing. So they want recommendation for us on a sustainable model that will best serve the community. Once we deliver that to them, they decide if they're going to pursue any change. We have nothing to say about hiring people. We have nothing to say about firehouses.
no, we don't have any say in if they do. I understand, that. We're just recommending.
Yes.
They're recommending the color for the house. It's up to them to decide if it's the right color.
But-
My
I get-
point is I need, this group here needs to know, come to a consensus of what we think that should be.
Yes,
Right.
and the
But if-
decision is 1 or 2 of these 4 models. Because all we can recommend is a change in the model. If you want staffing and you think you have to have X amount of dollars to look at hiring career firefighters, then what you should be looking at is where do we get the opportunity to gain the most financial capacity?
I agree, but then the committee have to come to the consensus that we're, just hypothetically,
Okay,
that career firefighters is, yes, we want to hire career firefighters. Then,
no,
no, the committee, we're recommending, we're not doing it, we're recommending it, not hiring it, recommending it.
if this report will not recommend a change in the status of a firefighter, this committee will say to gain the most financial resources in order to have the most flexibility for staffing options, volunteer combination career, the town should consider that it gains the most assessed value to keep the tax rate reasonable for everybody and equal out the tax rate. We are not in a position to say, we're going to recommend you start hiring career firefighters. It's not part of our charge. If that's something that you truly feel is necessary, then you recommend a model that puts that capacity for finance on the table. So for example, you wouldn't say in that instance, let's keep the status quo. You wouldn't say joint fire district because that doesn't do much. Consolidation in some fashion will probably bring more money to the table because it expands the territory, meaning it expands the property base so that there's more assessed value to draw it down.
I understand, but I also, so we're just we'll do one fire district. Hypothetical.
Okay.
Because that'll bring the most money in, and that's what we give to that's our report to the town. And we're supposed to let them assume we're doing that because we think it's to help with the staffing. They should hire people.
No, it wouldn't be framed that way.
That's what,
So
how would it be framed, do you think? If that was the scenario.
you, first of all, you've done something that no other committee, no other formed group has done when they look at fire protection in this community. Fire departments have hired consultants, fire districts have hired consultants, the town has hired consultants, the town has put together other committees. The village has done the same, and all they've said is, here's the issues, here's some suggestions. Yeah, build a new firehouse. Yeah, you need to look at hiring people. Yeah, you need to look at a different truck. Yeah, it's time to look at different finance. But nobody but this town board has said, we want to know what you have. We want to know what our needs are so that we can see if we need more to equip, whether that's staff, apparatus, and what we need to sustain that. So we've already shown them that our staffing numbers are going down, our call volume's going up, our financial capacity is no room for growth. And we're stymied because we've done what we can do without your assistance. Now, to get us off from staffing issues, we need more money because we have to either incent volunteers with something we can't now afford, or we have to start hiring people in combination or ultimately career. Or we have to start looking at regionalizing our service with others around us. And if you look at others around us, some of them have pretty hefty career, Henrietta, that kind of. So the town board has an awareness. But for us to just say we need more money to hire people isn't going to fly. They didn't ask us. They know we need more people. They want to know if there's a way to restructure the authorities, the governance, to get where we need to be. We're locked in this village, district, fire protection district contracts that we've been in for since 1939. And it's not working anymore. And they want to know what we need to change to make a good delivery system. So we're saying the same things, but we're not here to say, look, you guys, you need to do this because you need to hire people. Or we say you need to hire.
I agree, but I don't, I know, respect. We went through apparatus, we looked at capabilities. And stuff. What if this committee thought that we needed an aerial truck in the fire district? You know, if the committee said, we should have another aerial truck in that side of town. We shouldn't say that, we should say,
Well,
we should change the governance, so we can come up with money for it.
say consolidate the districts. That puts a ladder truck within the purview of the district. Ladder truck would be in either house. We're saying the same things, we're saying it in a different way. We are not going to get into the weeds of the details of operations. That's not what we've been asked to do. We've looked at what we have. We understand that we're lacking in resources in certain areas. And in order to get that, the structure has to change. We're not going to get any more money out of the village.
Okay, I understand that, we've gone over that, so all we're really looking at then is administration,
To get,
To get
administration is
money.
a structure.
to get money.
Well, to get to money, to get to streamlining more things, to get to what fire protection needs are in the whole town. That's why this committee exists. No other reason. And we're showing the town where the deficiencies are in the data, in the tables, the graphics, the narrative. It says in plain language, here's what we're up against. Now, in order to overcome that, you have, town board, you have the authority to change this. Here's what we recommend you to do to get us out of this hole.
I get that.
So in the model, you could say, just like, these bullets say, if you take this model, here's what we're going to achieve. If you take this model, here's what we're going to achieve. If you take this model, here's what we're going to achieve. Or if you stay where we are, this is what you get.
I was asked to be honest. I was asked, would you like to be honest, with the thought, and it was because the two fire departments district are providing protection to 3 different communities at no staff. Am I missing something?
As your reference copy. As Chief Kester and I went to Bob, John Bob, Supervisor Bob, and said, we need to do something.
Yeah.
So I'm questioning,
He's trying to get to how the town board can help that.
So it really sounds like we need to come to a point where what do we think is, what can we recommend? Is this joint fire district gonna work? I think no, because that doesn't solve the problem. It still keeps the 2 houses separate. So a whole town-wide fire district is really sounds like what we need to do. It brings Honey Falls and Mendon together. They're already trained. It takes away their liabilities. It takes away those other things. You then can tax the whole town as a whole. You have more options.
Chief, no, man.
Steve Tripp.
when do you see us coming to an agreement on a model?
At the next meeting. When we leave the next meeting, you have to decide what it's going to be, because at the second meeting in February, you're going to have the report in front of you. And if somebody has, finds a typo when they read it, whatever, it's got to be in a format that's deliverable by March 1st. Now, I gotta tell you, I took another look at the 1995 Town of Mendon Fire EMS study today. And one of their strong points is to consolidate the services inside the town. Fire ambulance. And they recommend everything. And here we are, almost.
And I think it was in the
30 years
2016, 2016 one too.
I don't know.
I have a 1993.
Tom, here,
Over and over again.
yeah,
Which states, in 1993, 30 years ago, the daytime manpower is a problem. Can we please make a
Yes.
decision again?
so what's been done to date is not shown the elected officials in black and white, the data that you have brought to this table. You have shown, you have proved to them that when you and Pete Kester went in and said, we need help. It's not just your opinion. You acted as chief, Pete acted as chief, saying, here's where we are. And we're frustrated because it's been going on for some time and we don't have what we need. So the town supervisor sits in a position of influence and authority. However, the town cannot provide fire protection. However, the town is kind of a neutral party among those at the table right now because they can't provide it. The fire district and the village provide it. But the town is very influential with dollars from the fire protection district, territory, the fire protection district, and authority to change that fire district on a resolution that they pass. So they kind of hold a trump card. So the ability of the town to go to the district, to go to the village, to say, here's the issue in black and white. Staff is down, call volume is up, responders, volunteers are stressing and burning out, and we're not recruiting and holding on to people, yada, 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 from what you've given them. Help us. So they're saying, well, let's look at how we can help you. What do you recommend? Because here's how we can get involved. We can change the fire protection district. If there's a will on the part of the other authorities and a political will on the part of the people in the whole community to advance fire protection for sustainability and to give you what you need to offer reliable, sustainable service, then let's take a look at it. So whatever you recommend will be considered in a genuine way.
So what do we need to do to make that decision?
I would say, take a look at these charts. Here's the things that are on the table. You know, the staffing is huge. Everything is, you know, status quo is only going to work for so much time going forward. If you decide on one of these models and you want it to go forward, you have to pick stay the same. The other option is a joint district or some kind of consolidation, or looking at moving the fire district protection district as its own entity into some other format. I don't know that any of those are really viable. That was about page 3. That was page 4. Other options for the town board related to the Mendon Fire Protection District. On their own, they could do any of these on page 4, probably some other things.
So
Like-
do we just like vote, like this is what our recommendation is?
If that's what you, if you think there isn't enough of a consensus, or you want to recommend 2 models, and you have to justify them. You have to say, we recommend this because here's what it will do. We recommend this because here's what it will do. And certainly the here's what it will do would be appropriate financing for different staffing options, without making demands, you need to show them the possibilities to get them to see that there are options that are viable to assist, which there are. And not all of this takes a huge amount of time. We're in January, they get the report March 1st. If the town board looks at it and within a couple months, they decide they want to make a move and the district, say it's consolidation, and the district and the village agree with it, then you put it in the legal time frame to do the hearings, the notices, yada, 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 and you make it happen. It's not like it's going to take years to do something. There are possibilities to do something in a fairly, I mean, it's going to move, once it's, if there's an agreement between the authorities, it will move along. If there's not an agreement within the authorities, then the town, I don't know what they want to do.
I'll ask the district. From 93, 30 years. That's enough staff, right? What was that for just the village or
That was a village report put out by the fire chief, that was a year review.
majority of fire districts, right? We have authority for taxes. I guess I'm going back to the staffing. I mean, you being the fire, would you just levy taxes and fire?
Hire people tomorrow if they wanted to.
Right.
I mean, that's definitely,
So
there's nothing
then,
off the table.
then I'm gonna ask you the question. I haven't.
So we've been status quo for now, right? We've been working with Honey Falls. We've had a daytime guy there probably the last 45 years, I want to say, between the last two daytime guys. I mean, one of them's done there about 30. So we knew that we had an issue during the day. So that's happened, right? And that's why we've had somebody there during the day. And then an example is we have certain call types we do really good at filling people for. We have certain call types we know that we struggle with, and we found solutions and stopgaps for the ones that we struggle with and figured out other ways to balance that out with the different call types. And we haven't hired anyone yet because our biggest thing is don't leave money falls hanging either, right? I mean, we're one area, right?
Right.
That's the,
I'm not saying to hire, I'm just asking, you could.
oh, absolutely, right?
So if it was combined, it was just a larger district, you could, or you couldn't.
Absolutely, and I think that's a great example of it's gotta make sense for everybody to make that happen, because we could go out and
So by combining, it brings in some of the pluses that are shown here, and also it brings in, it changes the tax rate.
Well, I
It
think-
evens it out.
well, taking the finances out of it, you get a bigger pool of people either way, whether it's free or volunteer, you have a bigger pool of people that are going on those calls. And that's the easiest way of looking at it, right? If you combine Honey Falls and Mendon, you automatically have more members. Even though we both don't have a ton, you have more members. If you hire career staff, right? They're responding to calls, they have a larger area to go to.
So, wait a minute, if you combine, you have 10 members, you have 10.
I got 20 members.
20.
Yep.
But you're covering
A larger
a
area.
larger area. And you already have mutual assistance, mutual aid agreements. Right? Once you can, pretty much anything that's ever struck fires or et cetera, et cetera. So you're already going to get. So you already have.
I mean, not for everything, not for everything to go on.
Okay, but not everything you go on needs.
No, but it needs two. And if you get one for Honey Falls, one for Mendon, you get two people. And that's, you get a larger pool to pull from people being available. And if you hire career people, it's less downtime for them, right? You have a small area, Mendon Fire District hires a bunch of career people. They're gonna be sitting around a lot, like a lot. If you put Honey Falls into that pool, well, now they're sitting around a little less. And again, then you want to bring finances into it, it's a larger tax-based pool.
Right.
So I mean, there's different ways of looking at it either way. So you probably don't need 10 people on staff for Honey Falls and Mendon. By the way, they're covered both places.
And that way.
We need to have that, I'm sorry.
Our call volume goes up, our manpower decreases.
Right.
So we could say today that 4 guys on set might be good enough, but next year it might did. I have no reason to believe that our call volume will not continue to rise.
Makes sense.
And to get to a comment that you made about me, it is going to take, it's already pending you. And we sit there in a meeting, there's no decision made, nothing has changed. I have less volunteers than I did a calendar year ago, and I have run over 50 more calls in that year than I did the year before. This is a serious problem. If the pager goes off right now, I don't know if I have enough people. I have 5 fire departments responding on a reported fire, not because I need more fire trucks sitting on the side of the road, because I need more people there. So to answer your question, how many false amendments together going to a house fire is not enough. That's been documented because we don't run just together on that house fire. We need people. My concern is, and it's a concern, as we come to the end of this committee, when am I gonna have the money, the people to properly respond to calls in this village, town, whatever? Because I can go to a village budget meeting in next month or whatever and ask for money, and if I don't get it, nothing has changed. We're in a worse position than we were a year ago. And this will not be done in the next few months.
So the time that you've sat here has not been unproductive.
Not at all.
Because of what it can lead to.
But-
The fire district can hire people, like Ryan said, tomorrow.
Please do.
The village can hire people tomorrow. The village doesn't do that, the fire district doesn't do that. 2 years from now, if we stay the way we are, we're gonna be in real trouble probably. So getting to a point where we can get more staff is looking like the village isn't gonna give money to it for various reasons. The fire district isn't gonna give money to it for various reasons. So the structure status quo isn't gonna help the staffing issue,
I understand, but so if the district won't do it now, and the village won't do it now,
not as individual entities, they won't.
well, who's to say as one entity? We don't have
If
any
they are
say.
one entity, their position doesn't count because Ryan might not be on the commission. Somebody on the board of trustees may not be on the commission. It's gonna be a new set of commissioners who are gonna make the decisions.
I understand that, but just because they combine doesn't mean staffing's changing.
It means there's more money and
No,
the
but it
flex-
means there's more money, but it also means that the commissioners all in total can just say, no, we're not doing that. I'm not, nothing really, it could stay status quo as it is, whether there's one fire district. Or we make the fire protection another fire district. Now we had two fire districts and the thing. My point is, it's not gonna, it could not change, even though the change gives more money to help facilitate it, but it doesn't mean it changes. Most commissioners could vote and go, no, we're not doing that.
And right, can't force it.
Exactly.
But based on
So
what,
to the chief's point, he doesn't get any more manpower if the combined district still says, I'm not doing it. It's all, it doesn't mean it's actually hitting the ground. Is what I'm at.
I know that, but based on everything that's happened here, based on this report and its public face, do you really think that 5 commissioners on a consolidated board or some other jurisdictional board are going to turn their back on 2 fire chiefs continuing to say we need more staff?
I'm not sure they're gonna turn their back, but they can,
Okay.
I can't answer for that.
And
because
we
that's all
can't
I can
answer
tell.
that. All we can do is provide a structure that gains more flexibility or options for the people who make the decisions. Corey can't hire people. All he can do is solicit more volunteers. And
I agree, but I'm back to, we make a recommendation, this committee, that it should be, and again, I'm not.
you
one
can
place or the
recommend a
other.
career department, and if somebody doesn't want to do it in authority, they're not going to do it.
Exactly, that's what I just
Yeah,
said,
So
so
Why
we
are
can only
we still
recommend,
talking?
so it doesn't get more people on the ground. My point is this, if I indulge me for just a second, is if the committee said, we think we should have one fire district, however that marries up, not a
Yeah,
joint
okay.
for every, right?
One fire,
Consolidate.
one
One
fire
fire
district.
And my gut feeling is that, and the reason for this is, I'm not saying you need to hire X, you need to buy that fire truck, but because the committee,
This is what it will
believes
gain.
that this will gain us the ability to hire staff
Yes,
and to buy this
yes,
fire truck, et
Yes.
cetera. But I think I am not shy to stand there and tell them this is why I want this. I don't want to be coy about it. I want to scream it from the rooftop. So he has the folks that come to our houses.
I understand, David, and what this committee has done right now justifies that as a recommendation.
But I kind of thought I got the loss there. We couldn't recommend.
You can make recommendations, but please don't think that the recommendation you make is hire people. We have to look at a structure that will gain what you want to have, has the capacity to do that.
If I'm gonna comment on Novello,
Yes,
I recommend a townwide fire district. It is, in my opinion, the best way to maintain the culture of both fire departments and allow for continued volunteerism while still providing for a capacity to ensure that they are able to provide a reliable amount of staffing to respond to incidents in the town. Which I think captured what we're both trying to say.
that's,
Anthony, thank you.
that's, that's where we need to go. That's how we get
So
to
how do
what
we do
you,
that? So what do we need to do next?
just,
Next meeting, she said.
just
we're
make a
gonna-
recommendation at the next meeting.
Well, I mean, it's not just what you want, that's a
It's the best,
consensus
it's
that
my opinion,
we've
personal.
kind of come to.
Not speaking from the fire department, or the business, personally, it's the best way to get proper staffing.
But it just makes sense. The fire district, that's what their charges, that's what they are supposed to do. They are supposed to ensure fire protection for whoever they are responsible. And so the trust would be as a village person, that that's what they're doing. And that they're gonna maximize the dollars, they're gonna be responsible for their budget, they're gonna plan it out, they're gonna staff it right, they're gonna do all those things.
At one point in this town, ambulance call volume went up, volunteers went down, and they hired staff. And I don't believe it probably took a committee and a year to do it. My opinion.
Because they lowered staffing, you know, right?
And that's what I'm saying,
I'm just,
Cory.
I need to get
The
back.
village could hire firefighters just like they can hire
I
ambulance.
completely agree, and I want to get back to my main point. Again, is it's been a calendar year, call volume is up, volunteers are down, so we're in a worse spot than we were when we identified there was a problem. When everybody goes home tonight, there's no more people coming than what I have right now. And tomorrow, it may be less. One of my young active guys decided it's time to move because he can't afford to live in this town. I've lost one more person, and there's nobody behind it. This is a serious problem.
But I think what we've done here in the last couple of months
It's been great.
is put together data.
I agree.
And I, as the town board member, had no idea all of that data before I started.
I was very happy that you got on, because you admitted in the beginning, you didn't know anything.
I didn't know
I
any of
appreciate
that. So I would, and I don't want to speak for other people, but I'm guessing that not the other board members don't have the insight that I gained.
Well,
So
like
I
I
think
said,
this is
you've
better.
done things no one else has ever done.
Right.
You've taken a community-wide approach, all the jurisdictions, both fire departments, and said, here's what we don't have, here's what we need. And you've shown it to them in numbers and data that displays patterns and trends
And not just some anecdotal thing that somebody's saying we don't have. We have proof. We have data to support the recommendation. so that other people can make a better decision.
So jump from what we know, to what you need, and the bridge is the structure. If you feel that consolidation of the services across the town geography is the best way to do it, then make that the model, and the recommendations that are with it come away just like what Anthony described there, with a little more detail, and the storyline, is to, and this isn't just come up, this has been noted in reports 93.
I would say though, with that 93 report, that's what brought about the administrator. It's on a false fire.
Oh,
So things haven't, I mean, it's not like
That's
nothing
staged,
happened.
okay.
Still in a bad spot.
Anthony says, I believe the report needs to recommend the town takes measures to ensure that the following things happen in the next few years. 1, capital reserves are established for the replacement of aging fire suppression apparatus to serve the season fire. FPV. 2, the agency response to fire-related emergencies can consistently provide at least 1 fire apparatus with 4 inferior qualified firefighters to all calls in the FPV 90% of the time. 3, additional fiscal resources will be committed to either the hiring of paid personnel, the incentivization of volunteers, or both in order to provide a reliable response force regardless of the recommended structure.
Those are written comments?
Yep.
Okay,
I
so,
think that's the end of the bond.
okay. All right, so please note that some of those are pretty specific. However, they can be generalized to make the point. We're not telling the town board what to do. We're making a recommendation to the town board for a structure that will allow some of these things to happen in an environment that has one board of authority, that has a maximum ability to aggregate assessment within the community for the purpose and focus of fire protection. And consolidated district, or any fire district, has greater flexibility for evolving as this fire protection service continues to change. Districts can combine regional approaches, so it's a good thing to look at from a number of perspectives, and it's not just one look. It gives the district the opportunity to evolve and change as the industry changes, community changes. So, are we in a place to stop tonight? Does anybody have anything else you want to add? All right, I am going to write the introduction to the report. That'll be available before the next meeting. Chapter 6 is trends and projections, which will show where some of the kinds of things we discussed tonight have happened. And then chapter 7 is your model. So please think about this. We need to come to consensus. If you think that there's something that you will arrive at and you want me to know that now, I will take some of the information that I have and put it in a narrative form for you to look at, see if it's expressing what you want to say about the model.
Do we need like a show of hands to say, we're interested in a townwide fire district?
Well,
I mean, like, what do we do? Like, we need to vote on.
that's something the amended fire district has to like.
I mean, it would take, it's really the village, the fire district that have to agree. I'm pretty sure the town's gonna follow whatever they do because they need fire protection. So I mean, that's what, it's not like we haven't, Corey's right. I mean, I'm pretty sure before my time, we've been to this road before.
Oh, yeah,
So-
there's I have letters and reports, so.
So that's what it's really gonna break down to. The village and fire district have to come to some sort of agreement.
They need your recommendation, just like they need your recommendation and why you're recommending.
Yeah, but I guess my point wasn't being fire district, own entity. From a, legal standpoint or something, the commissioners need to just, say, yes, that's what you want to do,
I believe.
or.
I have our attorney here, but yeah, there'd be like a vote and permissive referendum, all that good stuff, like, it's a whole bunch of stuff.
The minutia of how to get there, I'm just, I guess.
Yeah, I mean,
You could,
in
your
simple terms,
commission,
yeah.
your commission could go, no.
I mean, there's.
I mean, I'm not
A
saying you
commission could
will.
totally dissolve the fire district if they wanted to tomorrow. It's not a good idea, but it could be done. So yeah, I mean, absolutely, that's what it takes, and I mean, it takes it making sense, and it's gonna make sense at this point, because there's still options to figure things out. I mean, that's, we'll be back in the corner, yeah.
I guess I agree with you. If we have like that somewhat of a consensus right now, I don't mean, it's not like we've got 40 meetings here. Why don't we kind of head towards that so you can flesh it out? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I mean, if it's more time to do that, knowing it is probably what the group will recommend.
But your effort is in that direction.
If that's the effort, if that's the direction you want to go, I will start putting some framework together as a narrative to make the recommendation.
So those,
And just please keep in mind, your recommendation is just to the town board. So if the village representative on the committee and the fire district representative on the committee say, I don't think our boards would go along with it, that doesn't mean you shouldn't recommend it, because the committee is made up of taxpayer representatives, fire department, and the authorities.
it's just a recommendation.
Yes,
That's what we have.
to
I
the
understand,
town
but
board.
That's kind of what I'm to the town board. That's what I'm kind of saying is recommended a lot of other people that need to be on board all the way down the line.
If the town decides to go that route, they have to pull the district and the village into
It's
figure it out.
students,
Yes.
could or
Right, it's you're back in the same square with that, right? I mean, bringing the three places together to talk about it.
Right.
If
But I-
you have data to back it up.
What I'm hearing from Ryan is there's an openness to talk about anything.
Absolutely.
And probably on the part of the village as well, because, you know, they're into a financial corner here with what the issues are. So it's not an unreasonable time for the three entities to discuss this. And with the work that's been done and the information on the table, there's no denying where the shortfalls are. So if some kind of a structure can make improvement, hopefully there would at least be a consensus to take a look at it. And if there is a consensus to go forward, it can move pretty quickly in government time. It's like within 12 months, it could be a done deal, or 10. I don't know exactly, but within a year, it's a reasonable time frame.
administration change.
The structural changes of the administration to allow it to get going.
You can paddle for a year, doggy paddle. I mean, I'm back to the,
No, nobody's saying in the meantime, the village couldn't hire another person to be a Pete Henry between 4 and midnight.
and if that's the case, then we need to be knocking on the doors and we need this
Well,
ASAP.
quite frankly, it's probably that a group of village people need to go forward to,
That
and
might
from the
be, but
the fire protection, they need to go to. the
most
law.
folks in the village or any fire, any municipality have no idea what goes on.
Right.
They just know the thing, constructions, they have no idea since they happen on the side, right? You know what I'm saying? So my point is, they're not educated, to make this. And I'm not trying to spend money, I'm trying to get somebody to come to our houses.
And the information in this report is also educational for the town board, for the district, for the village to go out to the public and say, here's what we think is necessary and what we would like to move forward with.
I go back to, you think, I think we should, if Bucky's gonna write this or get it, why don't we just start shoving in that direction? Why don't we just say it tonight? What are we waiting?
Fire district.
And if the people in this room, if the other folks that aren't here disagree, they can, throw their 2 cents.
Anthony already.
And we're missing John and.
Steve Chitters on military B and Jerry Lunt there. I mean, if,
But we do have forms.
yeah, if you know, if you want to start in that direction with some wording, to take a look at, get an idea of what the story, would be. I'm happy to do that, but I don't want to spend my time doing that if that's not where you are yet.
I think we're there.
Okay.
Let's go.
I don't know what, wait, let's do it.
Get the other one agreed by it. I
Mhm.
mean, at least give them a viable option. Give the other ones, give them plan A, B, and C. We'll put that one on top.
Right.
Well, I mean, quite frankly, as you said, the town can decide to do other things, but this is the top. That, I mean, that makes the most logical sense. Is the fire district to be able to do that. I mean, the town can always do other things. There's one right there.
Anthony asked would people who aren't here be able to add their consensus by email to the committee this week?
I don't need anybody
That's
else.
not a-
I mean, we have a
Got it.
forum and if somebody wants to submit something, they can submit it through Denise. Yes. Between the minutes and as soon as I have something together, I will push it out to Denise to send it out to you. And I know John will take a look at it. It'll go out to everybody, so hopefully you see it, everybody else will see it. Okay, all right,
Yep.
so back just quickly to the agenda. I'll start working on this, what we just talked about and the other narratives, and then Danny, we're gonna have to get together and you're gonna have to help me figure out how to package this electronically.
Got my number.
All right, and just so you know, this worksheet notes that we looked at tonight did not go posting. It's a worksheet for the committee, so it's not posted on the town website. It's not required to be, and it's fluid, so.
Thank you for doing that. That was.
Okay,
So this group has agreed that's the way we're going, just for clarification.
well, for me to start scripting that
Correct. So
now,
that we can.
so that you can
see
look at
the
it.
Next meeting.
Scripted report. Plan on handing it.
Well, and then if for some reason at the next meeting, the people not here don't agree and you ultimately decide to go in another direction, that's what we do, But I don't want to put too much,
I highly doubt though that they're gonna come and have a different.
well, they've all received this by email,
Yeah.
so hopefully they'll take a look at these
Yeah.
worksheets.
I mean, it's.
We'll see. All right, well, thank you. We'll see you on, February 8th.
Yeah.
Brian? Do you want to take that with you or do you want to?